you, Wincy. In terms of morning routine, sometimes I think one of the most powerful shifts in our minds with this is to recognize that actually this can start the night before. And what I mean by that is that our bedtime routines, our calming down and all of the things that feed into bedtime impact our morning routines. And then our morning routines impact our bedtime routines. So we have that ongoing cycle. So you can start working on this as soon as your children get home today, which is exciting, because we want to make sure that we are feeding into the next day. So there are lots of things we can do to support children in the mornings. One of my favorite things to do is to use visual supports. And I like this because it's so powerful for our children. And actually our children are able to take information visually far quicker. In fact, 90% of all information transmitted to the brain is visual, and it is 60,000 times faster than auditory information. So if you're asking your children, which is a massive difference, if you're asking your children to do something and you're feeling unheard, try a visual instead. Now, I was rooting around to try and find ours, but my son loves our visual timetable, so goodness knows where it is. He's probably taken it to school with him. But we do have one that we use every morning and every night, and we do work very closely. For those of you who are, if any of you are members of the Behaviour Bank, you will have met our lovely expert on this already. But in terms of our visual support, we have got visual routines that you can print out, or we work with visual aids as well. And in terms of kind of what this means for our children is that you can have it very clearly laid out as to what you're going to do at each step of the way. So first of all, you might want children to get up and brush their teeth. You might then want them to come downstairs and have breakfast, or the other way around, depending on how you do it. You might then have them put their clothes on. And each of those has a visual representation. Now, of course, you can download things, you can print them off, but you can also draw them. And actually, sometimes this is really powerful because they go through that process with you. So you can draw it and you can have it set up for them in the morning, and they can kind of tick it off if you put it in a plastic wallet, or they can stick something on it to say that it's done. Whatever it is that you want them to kind of practice, stick to one thing. But this is really useful. Not only do the visuals help, but I am a huge fan of a timer. So we use timers at home a lot as a parent and as a practitioner as well. It gamifies the activity that I want our children to do. So I'll say something like, right, we need to be out the house in 15 minutes. So we've got 5 minutes to do this, 2 minutes to do that, 5 minutes to do this, and I will make sure our children, know exactly what they're doing and when. And we've got our visuals, and I'll say to them, right, the first timer going on now, and then they have to beat the timer. I try to avoid competition within the house, so people against people, because that comes with a whole host of other things. We don't want that, particularly siblings against siblings. We never want anything like that in place. In fact, that feeds into another conversation we'll have a little bit later. But yes, a timer is really, really useful for children to be able to know what they're doing, how long they've got, and kind of give it themselves a personal best each time that they do.
For younger children, there are actually the big ones that are sun timers. So they're
Yeah,
visually actually
yeah,
quite nice.
yeah.
But you're right, at this age, for older children works so well, but for younger children, you're right, they have no understanding of the time. So we might say, we only have 2 minutes left, but
Yeah,
2 minutes, they don't really know what that means. So, you can also play a song, I guess. So that
yeah.
indicates, when the song is about to finish, they know, oh, it's time for me to move on and maybe just put my shoes on. So I really like that. And the fact of the visuals, because, you take away the visual, you completed it. And you're right, children love having the agency and the choice. So if they're involved in creating all those visuals, then they're going to have that agency. And, this is mine, I created it, and I want to follow it because, it's mine, it's my work as well. And they take responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, having that in place and making sure you mentioned music's fantastic for emotional regulation as well. It can be upbeat or it can be calm. You can kind of manage emotion with that as well. But having that routine is so, so important. When children, our brains are very predictive, and so they like to take the shortcuts. So the more we practice something, the more our brain makes progress in it, and we're building those kind of pathways, those neurological pathways. So the more we do it, they become motorways, and we're just, on autopilot. And we want to be there when it comes to getting ready in the morning. So putting clothes out first thing in the morning so that they know what, and sequencing it. You're going to put your pants on first. You're going to put your socks on next, or your trousers on next. You're going to do so. Everything is kind of systematic and repetitive, and the more they do it, the practice makes progress for them, so they're able to learn the ropes, if you like, of the morning routine very easily. And I do think that music's really powerful. The only other thing I was going to add for this question is to stay connected. Sometimes it can work really well to start the routine, whether it's morning or evening routine, with a connection activity. This might be reading a book, it might be playing a game, it might be singing a song together, it might be having a cuddle. But a connection activity to lead into what you want them to do is really important. Always connect before you correct a behavior or before you ask them to do something.
I love that. When children feel connected, they feel calm, right? The brain is not on alert anymore. So they want to be there for you. They want to connect. They do, they naturally just want to do well. So yeah, I really love that. Okay.
And it removes the pleasing element as well, because they're connected. They're not trying to please you. So we remove the concern of, them becoming too kind of pleasing. But we replace that with just wanting to be part of the team. And I think that's a really important part of intrinsic motivation is not doing something to make someone else happy because that's what you think you have to do. That is a whole other conversation.